To a special edition, Saturday morning special edition, just for this young lady right here. You feel special? You feel VIP?
I feel absolutely VIP.
That a girl, that a girl. So we're doing this special episode because we're going to be promoting an awesome event coming up in June. I'm, look, very grateful to be even a part of it. We just connected not long ago.
Yes.
So I'm excited about what this event's all about. But before we do that, as you know, at the Roar Zone, we take you behind that black curtain so you get to know who these people are, where they came from, where they're at today, and where they see themselves going. And just by some conversations on the phone, the energy was off the hook. The synergy was there. So I'm excited. So, Rosena, introduce yourself. Let us know where this all started.
Well, my name is Rosena Colquitt Flynn. Where it all started is really, bottom line is, we're talking about seasons of change. In life in general, we're talking about, just the history. No matter what takes place, people always got some things going on, but they forget about them.
So the event's called Seasons of Change.
Yes.
Now, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about you and your husband, because you guys are the event planners.
Yes.
And where all this even started. See, personal development for me started about 18 years ago, and I'm a young kid from Jersey, sitting on a couch, talking to a spiritual counselor going through marriage counseling. And I'm looking at my wife at the time going, are you out of your mind? Did she just fly in on some carpet? I'm a different person back then than what you see today. 20-something-year-old kid from Jersey, and she's talking me into talking to some counselor. But what happened was I had some major aha moments. And as I started to get introduced to personal development, I just became so intrigued. And little things that she shared with me, I started to implement, right? And a lot of it I didn't even realize.
Yeah. And
that's what happened. That started the whole thing rolling for me. And over the last, 17, 18 years, whenever it was, whenever I didn't keep personal development in my life, my results showed it. So that's why I have such a passion for sharing this stuff.
Absolutely.
Right? So where did it all start for you? How did you get involved in personal development?
Well, what happened was when I was younger, I don't know if you remember, I'm kind of dating myself, but they used to have on television where you can order things. You can order like Tony Robbins.
Oh, infomercials.
You could, you could order all these different things.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I was kind of underage, but back then you didn't have to verify anything. You just had to send in the cash.
They just wanted your money.
Yeah. So I had a job, so I was ordering Entrepreneur magazine.
Where do you think that came from, though? Like, where did that start? Like, where did that interest?
What's interesting is my grandparents and my parents alike, they've always been hard workers.
Okay.
And so my grandfather was pretty big on, saving money and investing and so on and so forth. So I had the ability to be able to hang out with him whenever we go up there, in addition to being able to look at these books and things like that. So what took place was I kind of got the bug,
Yeah.
And so as I started reading some of these things, I was like, wow, that's kind of cool.
And it makes sense.
Yeah,
you're starting to say to yourself,
did.
man, this is interesting. Yeah, that's what I did.
Well, it was kind of weird, though, for a kid to be so young.
How old were you?
At the time, I was probably about 10 or 11 years
Oh,
old.
wow.
So I knew I had no business ordering anything. But I had a paper out, so I could pay for it myself.
Doesn't matter. I mean, but
as,
what's really interesting, though, is you had that, right?
Yeah.
So early. Man, that's pretty interesting.
It's actually kind of scary because people kind of look at you and they think that you're kind of weird.
Yeah, and
don't
now looking back, it's a great thing.
Absolutely, it's an absolute great thing because I get to meet people like you and so many others. But to be able to do something like that, I thought, wow. So as I got older, back then I didn't know it was called personal development.
Yeah. You didn't know what it was. You just knew that it was intriguing.
Yeah.
It made you think. And not only did it make you think, but it made a lot of sense.
It was interesting too,
yeah.
And it was really, really cool. So it took me to areas and places that I didn't really knew were possible.
Right.
But it allowed me to be able to dream.
Okay.
It allowed me to think bigger.
Okay.
But even then, I didn't really know I was thinking bigger. I just thought, just like kids. Kids have no inhibitions, so they do the things that they want to do without thinking about it. They don't have time to be scared of it. They don't have time to be fearful.
And the other thing about kids, which is so great, is not only that, but they stay in this imaginary land, right? And growing up, as we're growing up, we keep here, grow up, stop daydreaming, pay attention, be an adult, stay in this lane, stay in this lane, stay in this lane. And man, it's so counterproductive, especially for creative people, especially for people with the entrepreneurial DNA, right? Because I just did a video this morning on it about, I have non-negotiables, right? Yes. My morning is a ritual.
Absolutely.
But it only works for me because I set it up. Now, if somebody else set it up, it wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
Right? So that's that entrepreneurial DNA that if somebody else is setting it up for you, you almost feel smothered. You almost feel like you can't breathe.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a true entrepreneur DNA. So that is really interesting. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, a teenager, were you implementing some of the stuff that you were learning?
I actually was, because even back then, I used to have yard sales.
Okay. Got the hustle.
But not only that, I also used to get up early in the morning with my dad, my late father.
Yeah.
I used to get up early in the morning with him. He used to be ready by about 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So what I would do is I'd walk on my way to school. I'd stop at the store. I'd get Jolly Ranchers. Everybody has a Jolly Rancher story.
Right.
Back then they had the little ones.
Yeah, I love the watermelon.
And I used to...
It's my favorite.
Right?
By far my favorite.
I love it.
I don't care.
I love it. And the thing about it is, with that, deviating from that, is that you wouldn't think that something so light would have so much flavor, right?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
And so dense.
But I used to stop and get those, and I used to get, and they used to have the bigger ones. Remember, they used to have the little ones. And
the flat ones. The flat ones. Yeah, I forgot about them.
Yes, right.
Man,
all the younger people are like, "What are those?"
They're like, "What is that?"
Those are like heaven.
That went away from the landline.
Yeah.
So all the people that don't know what a landline phone is,
with the cord and so on and so forth. So I used to stop and get those on the way to school. Well, I used to sell those at school. You weren't supposed to sell those at school,
but. Who says?
I mean, it was back then. They don't really want to give you any jobs but a paper route.
But let's talk about that, right? Let's circle that and put some neon signs around that. What you're talking about is that ultimately goes back to that entrepreneurial DNA. Instead of always thinking that you have to follow a certain path,
yes,
right? Start to think about, what works for me. And guess what? Maybe I don't need to go down this way.
Yes.
Maybe this way is better. So what's interesting is you listen to that, what I call your inner GPS, right?
Yes.
So when you can listen to that, it'll never steer you wrong. But it's having the courage to do that, especially when the outside noise is chirping.
Oh, yeah.
Chirping. So that you just had that. There's something in you that just drove. That just kind of...
There was. I mean, back then...
Where did you grow up?
I actually grew up in La Puente, Covina, West Covina area.
Okay.
So, in Los Angeles, because of the fact that my grandparents lived there.
Okay.
So, I mean, even there. I used to want to be an ice cream man.
Okay.
Not man, but I
used to want...
Yeah, because I thought, wow, that's cool. You know? And then my favorite candy growing up was actually red licorice. So I thought, I'm going to own a licorice store. And I'm going to have every possible red licorice that you can have,
Well, it's interesting because the candy and the sweets, right, kind of map back for you.
Oh, yeah.
Fun, light, like that feeling. It gave you probably a really fun feeling, I guess, if you could.
It did.
Yeah, and that's what you think of. That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Well, because the thing about it is, a lot of times now, people think that I'm not one of those people that chased the money at the time. I really wanted to chase the fun,
the passion.
And if it was cool to me, if it was, and I felt like really I was helping out other people because they weren't going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. They weren't going to go get this. They were almost expecting for me to go get it.
Yeah.
So that's where supply and demand comes in.
Love it. I love it.
And it's a crazy thing, but to know that when I think back, you're a business person that young.
Yeah.
Like who knew?
But what's interesting is you just followed your gut feeling. You followed that intuition. And again, as we become adults, right? The society tries to take you away from that, right? It took me so long to identify myself as being creative. I used to grew up. I'm thinking creative was just an artist, right?
Yeah.
Or a musician, and I'm neither. But I'm very creative with certain things when it comes to businesses and the brand. I can sit with my graphic designer for hours and just create and create and create.
Isn't that awesome? Huh?
I love it though. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think that by pushing kids away from that, it's confusing to them.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, right? Because they're not following what they truly believe.
Yeah.
And I always say, you can't. Whenever we go against our two biggest parents, we never win: Father Time and Mother Nature.
Right.
And we're going against Mother Nature by having them say, you need to just do this, this, and this, and you're going to be okay. And I think for whatever reason you had that in you, right, from the beginning. Plus, you had that good, solid foundation from your grandfather.
I did.
How much of an influence was that for you?
Just my parents and my grandparents in general. Okay. That was a huge influence on me.
In what way?
Because, back then you got to remember, those are the people who you love. So if you've got those
and admire,
people, So if you've got and you respect them. So if you've got those people telling you that you can't do it, when the rest of the world is telling you that, they're co-signing on it. Maybe they piggyback and say, "Oh, you can't do it." Hey, Dave, you're not supposed to be this. You're supposed to be that because of your background or where you came from. That's all bull. Yeah. So when you have somebody who's there going, look, maybe it's not for me, but if you can do it, I'm going to back you. What else do you need?
No, and that's 100%, right? So not every kid has that. Yeah, but what I always say, I say this all the time, is the greatest gift that an adult can give any child is a bulletproof self-image. Because now you're teaching them to fish. Now you're teaching them to fish on their terms, and everything maps back to your self-image, right?
Absolutely.
You can build it up, you can tear it down, but you cannot outperform it. So that's an awesome gift. That they gave you, whether they realize it or not.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter if they realized it, right? It doesn't matter. No. It still works, whether we realize it or not. So you're a teenager, now you're getting older, 18, 19. What's going on in your life?
18, 19 years old. Oh, Jesus. I'm preparing to graduate high school, which was pretty cool. Yeah. But then, 20, I get to be about 20 years old or whatever. I'm preparing to get married. Okay. And I'm like, are you nuts? But of course, obviously that's another business deal, if you will.
Yes.
Marriage,
no question.
It's
a relationship.
Marriage is a business.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
So then now you've got to start doing accounting. And I was definitely not an accounting major, but you got to start doing accounting because now you start bringing kids into the equation and so on and so forth. So you got it. So now your time is no longer your own. You talked about father time. Your time is no longer your own. So you've got to start mapping out things for more than just yourself. Okay. So one of the biggest things that I wanted to make sure is that no matter what I did, I didn't want anything to shame the family. Okay. I didn't want anything to shame my children. And I didn't want them to see me not doing something that, bottom line is, I don't want to, if you were my child, I don't want to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do.
Okay.
You know? So I had to make sure that I was going to be that role model for them. Because we have a lot of role models all over the country, so we think in general. But really, what people don't understand is your biggest role models are the people usually that are right in front of you initially.
Yes.
Until you make those decisions to go out and, basically springboard yourself into some other ones.
Yeah, and either, and I always say, if you can get in the habit of auditing yourself and your surroundings, man, you're gonna stay on track much better. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, who you surround yourself with, who you attract, because if you're attracting toxic people, it has to start here. You better start here. Don't start with them because you're attracting it. So where do you start to clean up that toxicity inside? Right? Ooh. Oh yeah. That's everything.
That's a great question. But what I started realizing is, and a lot of people don't want to hear people say this, but even your family members sometimes can be toxic.
No question. Yeah. No question about it. huge. And here's the thing. They can be toxic with the different intention.
Yes.
They want to protect you, they want to keep you here, right? But they don't realize what you need to do to grow, expand, and move forward.
Exactly.
But they just want to keep you there. And then you have the sideline chirpers, right? They're the ones that have all the answers, know exactly what you should do, when you should do it. The only problem is they don't have the guts to get on the field. Exactly. They don't have the guts to get dirty and get back up, but they have all the answers.
That's true.
Yeah. So there's two different outside noises from what
It's true.
I know.
So you talk about cleaning up. One of my greatest role models was my late brother Nathan, and this is what was really cool is because my brother had sickle cell, you know, and theoretically to them he shouldn't have lived past probably about 40 years old, and he defied all those odds. But even with that, he could have been on disability for the rest of his life, and he chose not to. So he was one of my role models because I look at him as really one of my biggest inspirations. You look at him, and even though he was in pain often, he didn't let any of that bother him. So he got out there and done whatever he needed to do. He didn't care about all the noise, all the chirpers. Right. He didn't care about that. He knew that in order to be able to move forward, you had to evaluate your surroundings. You had to make sure that the people who were around you were the people who are going to lift you up and who you can lift up as well, but not people who are going to be, those who want to pull you down. Those are like the biggest people who are toxic to you are the ones who you think are your friends, or the ones who you think are, because your family members are your family members no matter what. Yeah, so you've got people who are your friends, but they're like, hey, Dave, I know you can do it. And they're, Dave's not going to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Things like that. But in all actuality, you want those people who are going to be like, look, Dave, I know you don't want to do this today, but I need you to do it. Right. Do it anyway.
Yeah, and I always say, pay attention to who's not clapping on your way up. Oh, yes. Right? And also, here's the other reel about that. And I agree with you 100%, but here's the other reel that people have to understand. Listen, if you're moving on an idea, you're moving on a direction, and you let those people stop you, guess what? You don't deserve it. You didn't do it. And I don't make those rules, and you don't make those rules. Life makes those rules. And life says, if you're going to allow, right, that to stop you or sway you, then you don't deserve it, and you're not going to have it. And for some reason, if you do get it, you're not going to keep it. Yes. That's it. That's the real. And that's what I think people have to understand. You have to earn it. You got to earn it.
Well, what I once heard Bishop T.D.J. says that if I can talk you out of it, you weren't going to do it anyways.
Exactly.
And isn't that crazy?
It's a saying. It's it. But he's so right. Yeah. You didn't. Life wants to know who you are, what you're made of, and life doesn't care, right? Whether you agree, whether you don't agree, whether you're ready, whether you're not ready. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What did you do today? That's what they want to know. Exactly. Yeah. So it's 100%.
Well, it's crazy too because too many people are getting by reading old newspaper clippings. And one of my mentors once said, "Look, don't read your own press. Sooner or later, you start to believe it." Yeah. And that's like, ooh. At first, when I first heard it, I was like, "What is that supposed to mean?" Yeah. And then as you start going through situations, as you start going through climbing, whatever it is, you start going, I get it now. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. I had another mentor who says, believe in everyone, trust no one. And I thought, oh, that hurt. Because I was like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, that's almost offensive. But it's not. It's not offensive because the thing about it is that everybody has good intentions. But the actions separate
absolutely you
and the others from their intentions.
Absolutely. And look, and the real is, unfortunately, not everyone does have good intentions. Yeah. So that's the real.
They think they do though.
Yeah, I guess in their mind.
Yeah.
So but then that all goes back to you and what you're attracting in your life. Yes. So when you know you can only control you, then you're good. Yes. Then you take that driver's seat back. You take that steering wheel back in your life. And I'm a big believer in that. So now you're married, you have kids. Yes. How's life going for you?
Oh my goodness, the struggle is real.
That's it. That girl.
I got to tell you, when you've got people out there, oh yes, everything is hunky-dory, everything is great, this, that, whatever. Take a breath. Yeah. Don't compare yourself to them. because you know what? Sometimes things are great, and sometimes people want you to believe things are great. But I got to tell you, the first few years of marriage, oh man, they were hell.
Yeah, I mean it's work.
They really were, because it wasn't just me and my husband anymore.
Yeah.
It was me, my husband, and children.
Yeah.
We were still young ourselves, but now we're bringing people who are looking at us. So we've really got to be on our P's and Q's. We got to make sure that what it is that we're doing, what we're saying, you know, and really that the tongue in our mouth match the one in our shoe.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, you know, these kids are looking at us. And what I always tell people is that kids don't care where the milk comes from as long as it comes. So we struggled for a bit. We struggled for what felt like an eternity.
What do you feel is the biggest struggle?
Oh, our biggest struggle at the time was financial.
Okay. And that was
and
strained.
the reason why is because we didn't place our finances in a manner in which they should have been.
A priority.
You know?
A priority, yeah.
People, in general, you go for your wants instead of your needs. You can't, when you're growing up like that and you're bringing up a family, yeah, you got to take care of the things that you need first so that you can have all the wants that you want.
Yeah, you gotta prioritize, and you gotta figure out, you know, that game plan. And I think that happens and it happened to me and my ex-wife too. Yeah. Is you fall into that trap, right? You're young, and you just got to build those life skills, or you don't. Some people do, some people don't. And I believe it sounds like you had some really good life boot camps.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We got kicked in the tail quite a bit.
Right.
Funny thing too is when my husband Greg and I first got married, we were actually going on our first date. Right. We got shot at on the way. I thought, you got to be kidding me! This is our last date,
right?
You know, I was like, "This is
right. Is this saying something?"
And my brother says, "Oh, maybe it was fate." I'm like, "Shut up!" You know, fate has bullets. What?
Right.
But you know, it's crazy. Again, my grandfather steps in, and I'm like, "Oh," you know, and he's like, "Give this guy a chance." I'm like, "Give him a chance." The chance was we went out and we got shot at.
Right? Somebody's,
you know, like,
is somebody saying something?
What do you want? Right. But he was right, you know. The thing about it is that there's going to be things that take place in your life. There's going to be adversities, you know. And they're going to be your stepping stones to that next level of growth. You have to recognize those. Back then, I feel like we wasted a lot of time because I didn't recognize them. Back then, I'm just thinking...
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting because your grandfather brings what I believe is the ultimate asset to life, and that's wisdom.
Yes.
You can keep knowledge, right? You can get knowledge in Google, you can get knowledge in YouTube, but wisdom comes from the real, and that's what he saw. There was something there, right? Because of the life he lived.
Absolutely.
That he built created that wisdom.
Yeah.
Built that wisdom that you're only going to get over time. You're only going to get by doing. So that's why I love talking to people. If I want to go in a certain direction, I'd love to be able to talk to people and model the ones that have been there and done it.
Yes.
You know, so, and that's what I'm excited about this event coming up, because there are some real people that have been there and done it. So if you're looking for direction, if you're looking for connection, if you're looking for networking, you know, this event is going to have everything under one roof, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Yeah. But I wanted to bring them a little bit behind that black curtain, know who you are, share how you got here, right? So now fast forward the clock, you're still keeping personal development in your life?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty consistent?
Yeah, you know, because of personal development, I can honestly say it helped grow both of us.
And 100, yeah.
Because this is the thing. There was a time in our lives, I don't believe we were on the same page. And I'm sure that he would agree with me. We were not on the same page. But all of a sudden, when we started finding that common ground, which became personal development, you know, for me, I was already doing it.
Yeah.
For him, not so much. Yeah. But then he started realizing, oh, wait a minute. There's something to what it is that you're talking about.
Right.
So as we started listening to the Jim Rohns, the Josh Denny's,
his
John
subconscious
Maxwell's,
was taking it in like a sponge.
My gosh, you know, the
like
Les Browns.
Yes.
These things were incredible. You know, the Think and Grow Riches.
Yep.
You know, the How to Win Friends and Influence People.
As a Man Thinketh.
Absolutely.
That's number one.
And I mean, we can't forget the Bible, because that's where all of these things came from.
Yeah, it all goes back to antiquity. I tell people all the time. Yeah. So now your husband's starting to catch up.
Yes.
Right. How do you see your relationship changing, or is it?
It actually started changing because now we started being on the same page. You know, communication is a really huge deal in any relationship. I don't care if it's your marriage. 100%. I don't care if it's your friendships. I don't care if it's people you meet on the street.
Business, everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Communication is the absolute key.
Yeah.
You know, and it is the door opener to any and everything that you find yourself reaching.
So then you started to see, right, the openness, and probably more of an openness with your husband, because he's starting to see, well, wait a minute, if we do this, and then I'm starting to see this happen, you know, and that's where it gets you. It just gets you. It pulls you in because you're seeing real results and you're feeling real results.
It was awesome. And the funny thing too is we started seeing doors open. You know, more doors opening, and we started realizing the difference. Now, instead of thinking, oh, you know, these doors are closing for us, we started recognizing that the doors that started closing were the ones that needed to be closed. Yeah. And then what was really cool is our kids started picking up on it.
See, that's the ultimate, right?
That was awesome.
That's the ultimate. And that's the ultimate gift.
Oh, absolutely.
That's it,
Because you get to a place where you think they're not listening, and then they spin it around on you.
And you're like, I just created a monster.
There's nothing better than a personally developed kid.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It's so.
Now they're dropping wisdom on you.
It's and you're seeing the change in their life, right?
Absolutely.
You're seeing the evolution, the growth in their life, and I always say, listen, this needs to be taught from day one.
It does.
In school. It needs to be taught from, this is life 101. Yeah. This is the real, right? You can replace this with so many classes that don't mean anything that they're going through. But this is life 101. So how cool is that to start to see your kids, right? Take this in.
It's real cool.
And run with it.
It's real cool because my daughter actually was reading a book. My oldest daughter, she was reading a book called The Bait of Satan in school. Okay. And people looked at her like, "Are you worshiping Satan? Like, what are you doing?" And she was like, "No." But she just jumped right in. She just like, boom, she just like dropped some major nuggets on them. And they're like, "Wow." You know? Yeah. So now, on top of that, then she starts realizing, I'm picking this stuff up.
Right? How old was she?
At the time, she was probably 15, 16 years old.
That's awesome.
So she had been reading other stuff. But this book, I mean, Bait of Satan, for most people, they measure books based on, are they this big?
Yes.
Or are they that big?
Right.
This is one of those that big books.
Yeah.
So she read that, and she was just like in awe. So it got to the place where we really started, even before that, we started paying our kids not so much for chores, but to read books. So as they read books, then you got to tell us about them. It's not enough to go get we don't want the cliff notes.
Right.
We want to know that you actually read the book.
Where's those golden nuggets?
And it also got to the place where we were racing to read the books, but not racing to get through them, racing to get through them while obtaining what was in them.
Right. What am I going to get out of this?
So anybody can read a book quick.
Yeah.
But I want to know what you absorbed from it.
Love that. So you started rewarding them for that. How many kids do you have?
I have 4.
4 kids. So did they all jump in on this, or was
They did. Some of them were a little bit lagging, but then when you see the other ones, you're like, wait a minute, you're reading a book for money? So it wasn't so much about read the book I want you to read. It was like read a book, because the thing about it is that after high school, most people never pick up another book. Yeah. Unless it's that mandatory book or manual from work or college or something like that. But if you can get somebody to read something that they actually can find some interest in, that actually shows them the light to what they thought was a dark tunnel. Yeah.
They can find that whatever it is for them. They can find that aha moment, right? And I always. For me as well, I never read any books through school, right? I started reading books when I got into personal development. That's when I started to read books, and now it's at the point where I'm on the road a lot, right? So I call it my university on wheels. Oh yeah. So I I have my headphones in, and I just constantly listening to something, just feeding my subconscious, just moving forward. And that's Tony Robbins used a great quote. As you keep learning, you just keep depositing into your escrow account.
Yes.
And then when you need to withdraw, you just keep depositing. So when you
Isn't
need to
that
withdraw,
awesome?
it's awesome, man. It's awesome. I love
no
it.
deposit, no return.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I often use that because a lot of times, let's think about it as a, you invite somebody over to your house, okay? Mm-hmm. Unless you tell them don't bring something, we were always raised to bring something.
Yes, don't come empty-handed.
Always bring something to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a relationship with somebody and you're the only one that's bringing something to the table, initially you can kind of let that go. But you got to start evaluating the relationships and the time that you spend with people.
Absolutely.
Because, as you said, that time is something that you don't get back. We all have the same amount of time, but it's how we use our time that makes the difference.
Absolutely.
And we've got to become the masters of our time because, believe it or not, we don't have as much of it as we believe.
Oh, it's such a misleading myth.
Crazy.
All the time in the world is the worst statement you can ever start to bring in. And one of the things you said that I want to go a little deeper on too is you were saying that evaluate the relationships, right?
Yes.
So if it's one way, evaluate that. And I always say too, understand your definition of a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people fall short.
Oh, yeah.
They think that they have the right definition. And I'll give you a great example, and we've all seen this, right? You go to a restaurant. Mm-hmm. If we went into a restaurant right now and you look around, how many people that are eating together aren't looking at one another, aren't talking to one another, aren't saying a word, and they consider that a relationship, right? And they stay in that because it's comfortable, because they're used to it, but they don't realize that they stopped growing.
Absolutely.
They just start dying. You just start dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point, right, that you brought up. And what is your definition of a relationship? You ask yourself, figure that out, because you might be surprised when you think, you're, and then that gives you an opportunity. Okay, maybe we need to reevaluate that definition.
A little
right?
bit.
Yeah, bit. Absolutely.
Well, which is it's funny because a lot of times, just like you'll hear people say that they're in relationship marketing, but they don't know anything about the person. They don't know anything about themselves, really. And first, in order to be in a relationship with somebody else, you first have to find out who you are.
Man,
okay? When you find out who you are, then you can go on the journey to seek who other people are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we start dealing with relationships, my husband and I, by the grace of God, this September we'll have been married 27 years.
Wow, congratulations.
And so, thank you. And it's, it's constant work. People say, oh, 50-50. No, it's 100-100.
Yeah.
Because I've got to put in my 100%. He's got to put in his 100%.
Yeah.
And, with that relationship, sometimes we find ourselves falling short also. But you've always got to date. You've always got to date your spouse. You've always got to date the relationships that you're in. What I mean by that is do what you did to get the person to keep the person.
Yeah.
So you and I, we want to have a relationship together. You shouldn't be the only one who's bringing something to the table.
Yeah.
If you find at any given time that I'm not producing what I need to produce, then you've got to evaluate that.
Absolutely.
And we can't fault people for that, and yet oftentimes we do. Hey, we don't talk anymore. Hey, we don't this, we don't that.
Yeah.
But you've got to really think about, you don't want to be in the exact same place that you were 10 years from now.
Oh my God, that should be your scariest. That should scare the hell out of you. And if it doesn't, if that doesn't scare you, then you need to stop right now and figure out why that doesn't scare you. To be that same person a year from now, if that doesn't scare you, then man, you as Gary Vee said, your shit's broke.
True.
And that's the bottom line. That's the real.
So
that's the real, and that's a great point that you brought up. Yeah. And again, what's your definition of a relationship? You need to figure that out, right? And a great point you also brought up is I'm a big fan of your own level of awareness and understanding, right? That you might know who you are 6 months ago, But if you're not growing, expanding, you better stay on that audit. You better stay on that, who you are, checking yourself and figuring out, am I really moving in that direction?
Absolutely.
You know, and one of the things that that I always tell people too, when talking, especially talking about business or even a personal relationship, you know, you always have the option of accepting or rejecting a certain label.
Yes.
So if you do something, right, with the right intention and it didn't work out exactly the way that you planned, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a failure. It's the only time it's a failure if you take that label on. But if you decide to look at it in a different way, and I say this to a lot of people, like I've had businesses that have flourished, I've built and sold, and I have businesses that crash to the ground. And people say, well, wait a minute, how did you bounce back from that? Or I went through a divorce. Yeah. And I always say this, here's what I do. I look in the mirror and I say, and I can only answer this. You can only answer this yourself. If I didn't do this, if I didn't move forward on whatever this was, and I died today, would I regret it? If my answer is yes, I won. I'm good. Now we've got a clean slate. Yes. Let's move on.
Yes.
But you can only answer that yourself.
Yes.
So if I died today, would I regret not doing it? And if your answer is, I would regret it, man, you're golden. Yeah. You're good. You just won this little game called life.
Which is awesome because, you know, I noticed that I was flipping through your book and you talked about fearless. Oh my God, you know, it's so profound.
Yeah.
You know, there's different, and I recently did an interview with regard to living fearlessly as well. It's so profound that people get stuck in an area that they don't need to be because they feel like it's obligated.
It's so interesting, isn't it? It's that conditioning, right? It's that tape playing in your head, and that's why I actually just lately been thinking, because we had way we have this with my people is this is on demand.
Yes.
So I can change things around. I'm so close to taking that chapter that says fearless is bullshit and making it the title. And I'll tell you why. Because growing up, we're told, most of us, right, that if you're not fearless, you're never going to win. The key is being fearless. And what people don't, and what happens is, right, growing up, you start to feel that fear and you're wondering, there must be something wrong with you. You must be weak. Why am I feeling this fear? And then that stifles you, it stops you. But in reality, it's the same feeling. It's the same thing that happens when you feel joy. It's a feeling. So is that fear, right? Is it going to be your heaviest anchor or your strongest propeller? And I always say,
oh, that's good right there.
So, you know, and I always say, listen, it's not about being fearless. It's about feeling the fear, moving forward in a courageous state, because courage comes from that three-letter word core, which comes from the inside.
Yes.
It comes from digging in and finding that why. So, you know, again, and I'm going to talk about this at the event. My biggest message right now is fearless is bullshit. And if you buy into that, you're going to be stuck in the mud. And you're gonna wonder why you feel that way, because it's a real feeling. And as you know, right? Yes. If you can't identify it, there's no way you can fix it. Yeah. If your car's broke down and you tell your mechanic, well, I'm not sure, but I think it might be the blinker, but it's the motor, right? Where you can't fix it. Yeah. You gotta identify. What's your thought?
The thing about it is too with living fearlessly, is that you have to pick your level, because don't equate living fearlessly with literally being in fear of your own shadow. You can't allow fear to cripple you.
Yes.
You know, there's good levels in everything that you do, but you have to be able to identify those.
Yeah.
You know, that thing that keeps you, you know, where you walk out and you're like, oh my God, it's my shadow, and you run back in. That's not good.
No.
You know, that's not good at all. So you have to pick your level and know what you have to do with it. And sometimes we sit there and we're just waiting for all these lights to turn green. Ain't gonna happen.
No, you got to you got to keep moving forward. Now, I like that what you said about going outside and seeing that shadow and running back in. Because I'm a big believer that the fear barriers, whatever they are, right?
Yes.
And we can sit here and name hundreds of them.
Oh, yeah.
It's the ultimate bully in life, and the only way to stop a bully is to step up.
Yes.
And you got to learn how to get your lunch money back from that bully, or else you're not going to eat. That's the bottom line.
So excited about that. I am. Yeah. Because I'm listening to you in person talk about it. And I'm just like, that's what you need. Yeah, you need somebody to step up. And the funny thing is that when you've got those barriers that are holding you back, and then you look in the mirror and you're like, oh man, it's me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's...
Right. And where does that map back to? That maps back to your self-image. Yeah. So if you let fear, you let that bully take your lunch money, now what happens subconsciously, you think that you're going a different way, right? So you're going to take a different route to school because that bully's going to keep taking your lunch money. Eventually, that bully's going to figure out that you're taking this route and then come back unless you step up. And that's what I tell people. I want to teach you how to get your lunch money back from that bully. Step up and punch it right in the mouth.
But you know what else too? We don't want to get caught up in images. You know, images what everybody else thinks of you. You know, your character. Yeah, that's who you are.
Absolutely. Don't own that label if you don't agree with it, right?
And that's the thing too. You know, all these different labels and so on and so forth. And if we go into things like, you know, success, everybody has their own idea of success, and they want to tell you what it is. But truthfully, your idea of success and my idea, they may be two totally different things. 100%. And that's okay. But I think so many people get caught up in, you know, the yacht and the white picket fence and so on and so forth. And when you look back, you're like, I don't want any of that stuff.
But
you know?
Right? And what happens, but that maps to they don't understand themselves. There's no own level of awareness. Exactly. Right? And I always it's interesting that you talked about this because it's everyone wants to know, or maybe they think they know, whatever that is, but they want to know what's the definition of success and what's the definition of happiness. And mine is very simple. Success is living life on your terms, whatever that is for you, and happiness is fulfillment. Oof. When you're fulfilled, you're happy, and that's whatever that is for you, right? Yes. So, if you're fulfilled, you're happy.
Oh yeah.
You know, so I think that's really what it boils down to. So. This event, it's going to be off the chain.
Oh, I'm so excited.
It's going to be badass.
We've got some awesome people.
Talk about this now. Talk about this event and how it all came to.
Well, first of all, I mean, yours truly is actually going to be at the event. Which
I'm very grateful for the invite.
I am excited because I'm going to be sitting back taking notes. You know, because the thing about it is that the message is really simple. It's the event's called Seasons of Change. We've got a lot of people who go through different things. They don't know how to handle them, you know. And I realized that I was going through all these different seasons. You know, you got your winter, you got your spring, you've got summer, but people don't identify them as those. And I realized that what was taking place, we had such a long winter in our family, and it was really kicking our tail. We didn't know.
And it didn't have to be.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be.
Yeah. But certain things, it was just, we just didn't know how to handle them. You know, we had, my grandfather passed away. We had my nephew take his life. We had my dad pass away. That really hit me right here. My aunt, my grandmother, my cousin, my brother passed away. Yeah. Then I had another brother, you know, pass away, and I was just like, you know, like, this is too much, and this is in a short period of time. Yeah. You know, and I had some really good friends who really stood by. And even though for me it was just kicking my butt, you know, and my husband stood by, and the kids stood by, and one of the biggest things I was wondering, like, how's my mother going through this? My mother has, in her lifetime, buried 4 out of her 8 living children. She had 1 miscarriage, so there was 9 of us. Wow. So, my stomach.
So she actually, she had to live through that.
Yes.
You know, and persevere, right?
And that's the thing. So I'm looking at all of this, and I'm like, these are seasons of change. There's so many people who go through these things, and they don't know how to handle it.
Were you able to pull inspiration from that?
Absolutely.
From your mom?
Absolutely.
See, and that's you know, that's if you pulled inspiration from that, going through the times you went through, that's why she went through it, right?
Exactly.
So I always tell people, it's great. I love that you went there because I tell people all the time, you got to learn how to wear those scars with pride. You were bad enough to make it through, so now it's your obligation to share that. So your mom, right, went through that, became that person on the other side. Now that you witnessed it, right, and now you got strength from that. Now it's your obligation to share that.
You know what was awesome too?
Love
is
that.
I watched my mom
Got the chills.
I watched my mom go through all of this with absolute and utter grace.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, how is it that you can go through something like this? My mother turns 82 next month, and she's excited about the event as well.
Oh, is she gonna be there?
Oh yeah,
a girl.
So I was just like, wow, you know, for her to even be able to be here, to be a part of it, they're the reason why I do this.
And that's it. You tie into that why. It's so, and and you know what else is, we all have the option, right? Of life is about perception. Perspective, right? And when you see somebody that you admire, somebody that you love, somebody that taught you go through something like that, right? Multiple times, now what that does, that creates a belief in you, right? That creates that self-image, that it's the ultimate gift. You know, my parents, so I was 18 months when I was adopted, and they were in their 40s, so they're 2 generations ahead. My dad just passed in November, and my mom just passed in February, right? But I brought them out from New Jersey 4 years ago. They had a great, awesome time. They were both in their 90s, okay? And I remember my dad, we were getting ready to take him, he had died of cancer. So we were ready to take him back home with hospice. So just me and him in the hospital room. I already got my mom all taken care of in the place, and we're getting ready to bring him back with hospice. He's got all the stuff on him, the tubes and all. So I said to him, I go, I got a question for you. And I said, it's just me, you, and the walls. It never has to leave here. He looked at me and I said, you're 1 month away from 92. I said, do you have any major regrets? And he looked down at the floor, he kind of looked at me and looked away, and he goes, no. I go, you won. He goes, what? I go, you won. You won this thing called life, right? I said, you lived your life for the most part on your terms. And you lived a full life. And he just looked at me, he smiled, and he goes, I guess I did.
That's
I go,
awesome,
you
right?
won. Yeah.
Totally awesome.
So really think about that, right? Your mom's perception, your mom's perspective, because I believe that we create our own hell and heaven in the moment that we live in. So she has that perspective of nothing's going to shake her heaven. Nothing's going to shake her heaven. That's why she can show so much grace. Right? She has that wisdom, that wherewithal. What a great role model. Awesome.
You know, it's awesome too. You told the story about your dad, and I remember I was getting ready to head out to Atlanta. I didn't want to leave, you know, because my father, I felt like his health wasn't as great as it should have been. And my husband and I had the opportunity to sit there just before we got ready to leave, because he says, no, you got to go. And I'm like, I don't want to, you know.
You just felt it.
And I just was like, oh, even right now it's giving me chills. But one of the greatest gifts that he drew out of me, he says, you know, because we asked him, you know, well, how do you do it? You know, he's been married for 56 years at this time. How is it that, you know, you've been able to go through these different times, you know, totally different generations and so on and so forth? And he says, you got to live life. And he looks and he says, no matter what you're doing, you always got to ask yourself, are you living? So in my office at home, you know, I've got a banner, and it's all about, are you living? So no matter what it is that I do, it's all about living right now. It's all about living in the moment. It's all about living no matter what it is that you're doing.
Love it.
You have to be alive. Even my license plate at the time said, are you living?
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
And you know what? To even put another exclamation point on that, for anybody that's, you know, when you say that, some of those people out there that are watching saying, well, wait a minute, I am living. No. The question is, are you living or existing?
Ooh.
Right? So that kind of puts that, what he's saying is, are you living or are you just existing?
Yes.
Right? When you blink your eye and it's over, are you going to look back and say, man, I wish I could get that time back? Because it doesn't matter how much you wish, you ain't getting it back. It's gone.
That's true.
Right? It's gone.
That's true. And
it's gone.
The time is the biggest thing that we all waste.
And the biggest commodity.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And it's the greatest barrier. And it doesn't have to be.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the event. But before we do that, let me jump on and see if anybody jumped on. And here's the greatest thing, because we're live, right? Once we jump off, I'm going to reshare this. You're going to be able to share all the links, everything to the, but let's see who we got here. And then we're going to talk about this awesome event, because I'm pumped.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready. I'm excited. We're going to bring the heat. So what do we got here? Let's see. Okay, we got Chris Ripka. Just did his podcast yesterday. Great guy. I'll hook you guys up with. It'd be a great podcast for you to jump on and promote. This, and he says that's the key to raising children. It's a monkey see, monkey do. Oh, yeah. Right? And absolutely. Hello, anyone joining. Thanks so much, big man, for jumping on. So let's talk about this event. Ooh. What are we gonna? What's in store?
Ooh. Well, we've already got tissues ready because we know that they're going to take place. This event's going to be raw.
Okay.
We're going to be real. These are people. The people who are going to be on stage are people who have been through it. A lot of times, people want to tell you about things that they have no clue about, that they haven't been through. And this event is about testimony.
Okay.
And there's no way in the world that you can have a testimony unless you've had a test.
Yes.
Seasons of Change is about being bent but not broken.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that we've all gone through, and we're still here. So what does that mean? It means you're not broken.
Right.
Like a palm tree, they can sway almost all the way to the ground. In fact, to the ground. You'll see the branches, the leaves hit the ground. Yeah. And they come back up. And that's what all these people are.
Love it.
They're people.
So how many speakers do we have?
Oh my goodness, we've got approximately 19 speakers.
Okay.
And we may have some special guests as well.
All right.
So we've got Greg Walker, we've got Ikena Finch, we've got
the Shane Train.
We've got the Shane Train.
We've got coming all the way in from Philly.
Oh, geez, we've got Mark Menard. Okay. We've got Patrick Osman. We've got Christine Gates, Malachi Mitchell. We've got my husband Greg Flynn. We've got my daughter Brittany Flynn. We've got Lisa Jackson. We've got you, Daley, man.
We got the Monster Motivator.
We've got the Monster Motivator. We've got the man right
So
now.
now is this 1 day, 2 days?
This is a 2-day event. This is going to be on June 10th and June 11th.
Okay.
And we've got much more speakers, but we can't even name them all because there's that many on the roster.
And that's all right, because you're going to be able to post all the information where everyone can find this. So you don't have to worry about writing this down. And I love it because the title really connects with me and my message, because you were talking about change, right?
Yes.
And we're talking about fear barriers, right? The fear of the unknown, the fear of the darkness, the fear of success, the fear of failure, blah, 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 on and on and on. But I believe they map to 2 major fears, right? Yes. The fear of what other people think, and the fear of change.
Yes.
And I always say, this thing called evolution, if you can picture this as a train, right? And the evolution train doesn't care if you agree, if you're ready. It doesn't care. It says you're either going to jump on it or it's going to run you over.
Yes.
So I love that Seasons of Change, because that's where people are getting run over because they don't realize that they have to jump on this train. Right? It's going to leave her with or without you.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Right? With or without you.
At this event, we're going to have people training you and showing you not just what they've done, what they've gone through, but they're also going to give you some tips. They're also going to help you. They're going to give you action steps, to take. And treat this event like a buffet.
Yeah.
Only take what you need.
Yes.
You may not identify with all the speakers, but there's somebody there who you may identify with.
Absolutely.
And if that's your person, if that's your guy or your gal, get the nuggets from them, grab them, and take action.
And run.
That's going to be the biggest thing. Yes, run.
And run.
Yes.
And here's the other thing. Make sure, listen, at the end of the day, this is an awesome opportunity to network, connect, build relationships, right? Build those real solid relationships, because nobody got to the point that they're at when they get on that stage without giving back. You got to give first, right? Then everything starts to flow. So come out there, network, introduce yourself. Don't stand on the sidelines. If you're going to stand on the sidelines, this is not the group for you.
No.
You got to get in, get dirty. And there's going to be so much support. You know why? Because we've been there.
Exactly.
Right? We know how it feels to fall down. We know how it feels to skid our knees, get back up, wipe ourselves off, and keep rolling.
This is one of those events that you truly have to serve to deserve.
Yes, love that.
You
truly have
to serve to deserve.
Love that.
I mean, you're going to get here and you're going to find out there's going to be closet crying moments. Mm-hmm. They're going to be revealed here. Mm. This is where the story meets a story. Mm. A lot of times we hear a story about a person, but we think we know it. We don't. This is truly the story behind the story.
Love it.
And I've always been fascinated by what really goes on, because a lot of times we don't have a lot of time. So you just hear the commercial version,
the fluff.
You're going to hear the real deal here.
I love it. I love it.
Dave's going to come out and he's going to give you your marching orders, and he's going to give me my marching orders, whatever that is. And I'm going to take those things that apply to me, and I'm going to use them.
Absolutely.
Love it. That's what this event is about. And this is going to be an annual event, and it's just one of those things where anybody's welcomed. But get ready.
Yeah. Lace up the boots.
Yes.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you might get your feelings hurt by some of the things that you hear, but what you might really get is your heart sewn back together by the things that will help you move to that next level. You're going to see people here that are just like you.
Yep.
They're just like me. And then you're going to realize, wow, I can do this. It's truly going to be one of those things where you see, if they can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a great networking opportunity to build whatever it is you're building and get that support and take that with you so you can stay connected through social media and everything else. Now, before we jump off, is there anything that I didn't talk about that you want to share?
First I got to make sure I say hi to my kids, Flynn kids.
That's right.
Flynn family, Colquitt family. Hello. Thank you for joining us. I really want to thank you for even having me. There's going to be so many things that we pull out. And there's so many things that you've pulled out of me today. Some things I noticed that in life in general, there's things that we either forget about or we push down because the pain of having gone through it was it was so bad that you don't want to relive it again. It's like the lady who was able to pull the car off of her family member, and she started thinking, man, if I can do that, what else could I have done? And I love that because this event is something that's been in the making for years. And
so to it's finally coming to fruition, huh?
And to be able to, share the stage with the likes of you and so many other phenomenal speakers, I truly am grateful. I feel as though I am truly standing on the shoulders of giants.
Man.
And I appreciate you. I thank you. And wow. Thank you guys for all joining us. But this right here is a labor of love.
Love it. I love it. And thank you for taking the time coming up here. And I'm really glad that we connected through Shane. So I'm very grateful for that. So we connected, and we still got a whole lot of things to do together. So it's going to be an awesome ride.
Yes.
And you're going to be able to reshare this, promote the show, and then we have flyers we're going to promote and everything else, all this stuff. So stay tuned. We're going to have all kinds of information for this show coming up. I'm pumped. They got all kinds of stuff happening for 2 days. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. So we end this show the same way. Every time, not a girl. So for you, anyone that doesn't know, I'm a true believer that we can only be in one state of mind at a time.
Yes.
So if you're in victim state, at that moment, there's zero room for gratitude.
Absolutely.
And vice versa. If you're in that gratitude state, if you're in that joyous state,
There's zero room for that victim mentality. And we know victims never win, right?
Oh, yeah.
Never win. So, and I'm a big believer that life always makes the rules, and life always gives us questions. And we always have options. And right now, life is asking you, if you could purr like a kitten or roar like a lion, what would you do?
You know what I'm going to do.
Roar like a lion, baby.
You know what I'm going to do.
We're going to take this out Monster Motivator style, baby. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Ah! Girl. Nailed it. Just hit finish.